So, question number one, because I don't have to do all the introduction that we have to do on the regular live stream, because you guys on here already know me. So, question number one is, how much sleep do I really need? This is a really good one because, we always asking ourselves, am I sleeping enough? Am I not sleeping enough? I'm overly rested some days. Some days I'm dragging. I'm too tired. So, the CDC suggests that adults get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. That sounds like a lot. Sound like what we would give our 5-year-old kids, right? But, as we start to age, that sleep is definitely needed and necessary. So they say that you should get 7 to 8 hours of good uninterrupted sleep. That means without a lot of getting up at night and not being able to go back to sleep. Because it's okay to get up because, we have to go to the restroom and relieve ourselves. But hopefully you can go back to sleep and that you're not being interrupted and your sleep is broken. And then, that starts your pattern where you can't get back to sleep. So, but believe it or not, everybody does not require 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Some information that I've found, that I've heard, is that some individuals do really well with 6 hours of sleep, 6 to 5 hours of sleep. And they're saying that that's most likely individuals that they inherited that's in their gene pool. Believe it or not, that's in their gene pool to not need as much sleep as 7 to 8 hours. They're fine with 5 to 6 hours of sleep, and they can they're highly functioning individuals with those 5 to 6 hours of sleep. So 3 questions that you want to ask yourself to know if you require more sleep. When you get up in the morning, are you feeling overly tired, overly groggy? It takes you a while to get it together throughout the day. Are you feeling lethargic and tired and you feel like you need a nap every day? I mean, some days are more difficult than others. Some days you will, feel like you need more sleep. You might have had a lot on your plate. So not that, but they're looking at the norm, every day. Do you need a nap in the middle of the day to get through the rest of the day? Or ask yourself, do you require any type of stimulants like coffee or those little one shots or boost shots or whatever to give yourself more energy to help you to get through the day? So those are some questions that you can ask yourself to see, to find out if you're not getting enough good quality sleep, because we know that the impact of sleep has on our body. One of the benefits of getting enough sleep, especially as we're getting older, it helps to prevent a lot of medical conditions. Studies have shown that consistent sleep, restful sleeps, it helps with the cardiovascular system. Of course, helps with our heart. Is heart friendly. It helps with our immune system. It helps with our hormone regulation. And we definitely need our hormones to be regulated, because when our hormones aren't regulated, what happens? Our metabolism is out of whack. What happens? We gain more weight. What happens? We can't get rid of the weight. So we definitely need sleep to be on our side at this stage. Also within our sleep pattern, when we're sleeping, when our body is repairing itself, you've heard Coach T say that when we sleep at night, that's when the body is repairing itself. The muscles that, the tiny tears that we've developed building muscles and exercising, that's when our body rejuvenates and repairs itself during our sleep cycle. And it just helps us to maintain healthy tissues. It's good for the skin and everything like that. So on the other hand, chronic sleep conditions, why you really want to address this and not let chronic sleep conditions go too far, because chronic sleep deprivation leads to the increased risk of heart disease, diabetes, obesity, weakened immune system. And it can also affect, which we already know, it affects your cognitive function and your emotional regulation. We know sleep deprivation, when you're sleep deprived, you're more hungry, so you're overeating. And the thing about when you're sleepy and you overeat, why do we always crave the unhealthy foods? It's not like, you're tired and you're sleeping, you're craving food that we want to go for the salad. You're tired and you're sleeping, you want to go for something highly salty or something highly sweet, and it's always causing us the issues and the problems that we're trying to get rid of. So not getting enough sleep is definitely something that we need to concentrate on, and we definitely need to get it checked if it's too far out of hand. I've also, like I did the protein calendar for y'all, I also found that there is a sleep test that you can take. And if you score like a certain amount, it means that you should contact your doctor to address the issue that you probably need some help with sleep. So let me see. I found it. It is on the CDC's website. And when I send you the replay of this live stream, I'll definitely make sure that I don't forget the link this time like I did last time. So the CDC uses a scale called the Epworth, Epworth, Epworth Sleepiness Scale. It is widely used in the field of sleep medicine as a subjective measure of a patient's sleepiness. The test is a list of 8 situations in which you will rate your tendency to become sleepy. On a scale of 0, no chance of dozing, to 3 to 10 means a high chance of falling asleep or dozing. So I'm going to make sure I include the link, and it has other information on there once you take that. And you might have to visit a doctor if you're really having a lot of sleep issues. I know that in my fitness app, there are little guides in there to help you if you have issues with sleep. If you, it shows you how to, or it tells you things that you can do to actually help yourself to calm down before going to bed, like having your room temperature having your room a certain temperature, turning off the blue light on your phone or on your television, like a couple of hours before sleep time. Just certain things that you can do to help trick your body into getting into that sleep mode. But the most important thing, a lot of us can fall asleep, but I think what's getting to a lot of people, a lot of ladies that I've heard, is staying asleep. That seems to be the issue. You fall asleep, but you can't really stay asleep. So you might wake up after 3 or 4 hours. And, I've talked to my clients about that before, little tricks that you can use to get yourself back to sleep. But you definitely have to do a brain dump. You really can't think about what went on during the day, what has to go on tomorrow. You really can't go there, because once you go down that rabbit hole, there's no coming out of it. So that's what I wanted to tell you. That was the question that I answered about how much sleep do I really need. And of course, as I said before, if you get enough sleep, it definitely helps with your body. That's why sleep is very important. One of the pillars for my fitness programs, that you get enough sleep, because without enough sleep, you won't have the energy to want to work out. You barely have the energy to go to work. You barely have the energy to get things done that need to be done during the day. So who will have extra time to worry about working out? You just won't. So you just won't get it done. So that answers the question for how much sleep do I really need? All right. So question number 2 is, does the sugar content increase in mushrooms when you cook them by baking or stir frying? Never had that one. Never heard that one. So this is a good one. So it says, believe it or not, cooking mushrooms has the opposite effect. Cooking them tends to reduce the sugar content. So I know your question was, does it develop more sugar when you cook it? So what I found is that when you cook it, it has the opposite effect. It does not produce more sugar. Believe it or not, it has less sugar content when you cook it. Okay, so mushrooms contain carbohydrates in the form of natural sugars. So listen to this. While cooking them in heat causes some of the water to evaporate, which concentrates the remaining nutrients, including the sugar. So you're taking all of the water out and you're really combining everything. This does give the cooked mushrooms a sweeter taste compared to the raw version or another version. So they do taste sweeter if you're cooking them because you're pulling all the water out, so you're getting more of the natural sugar. Because remember, they're a carbohydrate. Carbohydrates are sugars. So most likely the sweetness that you're tasting is from the concentration of flavors. Additionally, the cooking method can influence how mushrooms interact with the heat. Baking and roasting methods may caramelize the natural sugars. And we know what happens when you caramelize something, it gives it a sweetness to it. On the other hand, if you stir fry mushrooms on high heat, that can cause the sugars to react in a different manner, resulting in a more savory taste. So if you stir fry mushrooms, it's going to have a more savory taste. Baking and roasting can caramelize, and it creates more of the natural sugars. So no matter the cooking method, there are still very new. Oh, wait, I'm switching my view. All right. Switching the view. Hold on one second. I was on a roll. Throw me off a little bit. Okay. Where is it? All right. Wait a minute. There we go. All right. So no matter the cooking method, they are still as nutritious and delicious and a great addition to your balanced diet. They are low in calories and fat, and they're rich in vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. Okay? So that answers the question, does the sugar content increase in mushrooms when you cook them by baking, stirring, or frying? Well, not frying, by baking or stir fry. All right, so that was really good. It's good to know. And maybe it's like that for a lot of other vegetables, because it's telling you, when a vegetable is a carbohydrate and the natural sugars that are already in carbohydrates, and how you're cooking it with high heat and it's pulling the water out, that condenses the flavor in the mushroom and it makes it taste sweeter than naturally. So I did answer that. So you'll have to go back and watch the video and definitely get all the information that I just gave you on the sugar content increased mushrooms when you cook them by baking or stir frying. All right, so that was question number 2. All right, so our third question that we have is how to correct muscle imbalances. Now, this is a good one because I know a lot of ladies, like this past summer, had a lot of issues going on with injuries, surgeries, and things like that. So this is something that is bound to happen at one point in your life, and it doesn't have to be permanent. Not saying that muscle imbalances are permanent, but it could be temporary. And so I'm not sure, she didn't give specifics on it, but let me just get into it. It says that muscle imbalances usually occur directly in the muscle, meaning the size of the muscle or the strength of the muscle is different compared from one side to the other. So say you have a bicep, you might have one bicep that's a little stronger than the other bicep. So it has to compare the opposite side of the body to let you know if there's an imbalance. One side is stronger, the other side is weaker. The size of it might be a little bigger and the other one might be a little smaller, but also not just with the muscle size, there can also be imbalances where the joints are concerned. So, the joints are surrounded by muscle, okay? And that has caused the joint to become weaker or stronger, looser or tighter than normal. You would have a muscle imbalance if the joint movement is limited. So, if you had any type of surgery, and I know I had a client before that had her lymph nodes removed. And so she had very limited range of motion in her arm because of having the lymph nodes removed. So what happens a lot of times when you have surgeries, you have scar tissue The body, that's the way that the body repairs and heals itself. So sometimes scar tissue can be very thick. It depends on your genetics. Some people develop keloids. You've seen them, with the extra keloids by the ear, on the chest, anywhere there's been any type of trauma to the skin, they'll develop a keloid. So usually when they heal internally, their scar tissue is really thick. So sometimes when you've had surgery or you've had an incision or anything like that and the body repairs itself, we all get scar tissue. But if you have that type of thing going on with your body where you develop keloids and the skin, as you can see on the outside, it develops real thick. Just imagine what it's doing on the inside. So when that scar tissue develops, it limits your range of motion. So sometimes you have muscle imbalances in that part. It's not so much that what you can see on the outside, like you're working on your strength training program, but you don't know why there's a limitation. So, that has to be done, diagnosed by your doctor, diagnosed by your PT, physical therapist, and they can tell you things like that. There's certain exercises that you can do to help improve the range of motion. There's certain exercises that you can do to strengthen, like if you're weak on one side than the other. And sometimes muscle imbalances can be seen outwardly, So for you ladies that have had a fitness assessment with me before, that you've done certain things where I'm watching to see if you have an imbalance, like one side of the muscle, one side of the body hangs down a little bit more than the other side when you're raising your arms overhead. That's a good indicator to see if one arm is up higher than the other. And sometimes we aren't aware that we have those imbalances going on. Sometimes it is from someone else noticing it, or sometimes you might start to feel it if you're limping a little bit more on one side than the other. So, the body is very, as strong as the body is very, very weak in some parts, and it's easily damaged, especially as we get older. So muscle imbalances, they can be a result of natural development. They can be a result of certain activities of daily life. Have you ever had that family member? Try to think back where they would sit in that one spot, or they had that favorite, back in the day, a lot of people used to have those lazy boy recliners in their house. So, certain people that was their spot. They would get out of that spot and there would be an indentation in the furniture. And so when they get up, you would always hear them getting up. That's because, they're getting imbalances because their alignment from their neck to the spine to the hip, everything is not in straight alignment. So, when that is going on, that can lead to a muscle imbalance when you are always doing the repetitive things. Just like you do repetitive things to strengthen your body, you can also do repetitive things to hurt your body. Sitting in the same spot, sitting in the same chair, not getting up after long hours of sitting at your desk. So certain things like that can cause you to have imbalances. Bad posture. I notice that when I sit in my car, my seat is up straight. When other people get in my car, and my son drives my car, my daughter drives my car, I notice when I get in, the seat is a little bit back. Well, that's because my posture is so straight till I always like the back of my seat to actually touch my back. So my posture is really good and strong. So that's the way that I drive my car. So bad posture can definitely lead to muscle imbalances and or an unbalanced exercise program, or, Coach T's a stickler for this one, exercising with improper form. What I always tell you guys when I'm teaching class, whether in person or online, I'm always telling you the same thing. I don't care about how many you can do. I care more about how many you can do correctly. That is what I'm always stressing. Form. Good form is key, because bad form will injure you. Bad form will hurt you. And then it takes a lot longer to get to your goal because now you're injured. Okay, so muscle imbalances can also lead to physical issues. This is a good one, like limited mobility, pain. That is the number one thing, probably, is pain with muscle imbalances Also, unbalanced appearance, as I was saying, you might walk with a limp, or you just might have one shoulder that hangs down a little lower than the other. So sometimes it gets so bad where you can actually see it. Other people can see it. Muscle imbalances can also result in instability. A lot of times we do balance exercises because we're trying to get ourselves to be more balanced, and that also helps with muscle imbalances, working on your balance. This can lead to increased risk of injury, as I said, but it can also, instead of just damaging the muscle, it can damage the joints. It can damage the ligaments. It can damage the tendons, the bones, of course, the muscle, and the connective tissue. So it starts to break down other parts of the body when a muscle imbalance is gone on for too long, or it's too grave, or it's a real big issue. So, sometimes a lot of people, or I know a lot of my our family members, they would always say, "Oh, I'm just getting old." That's not it. That's not it. Something is wrong. Something is not right where it's supposed to be. What I do, because I work out a lot, and because muscle imbalances can occur when you're working out. So what happens is that because I run a lot, and sometimes some of the streets that we run on, the streets are not leveled. So sometimes we find ourselves running on an incline or running, like that on uneven streets. So what that does is that makes my body off, so I'm running like that. And when you're repetitively doing that, that definitely can throw make you have an imbalance. So I go to the chiropractor on a regular basis, like every month. And I'm not going for pain, but I'm going for an adjustment. So I go and he adjusts my spine. He pulls my legs to adjust my legs because he knows that I've been running a lot. I mean, I run an average of 10, 12, 15 miles a week. If I'm training for anything, it might be 20 miles a week. So if you're doing that every week, and then the next week and you're doing 10, 15, 20 more, and you're running, on those surfaces that are not giving, because I'm not running on a track all the time. 90% of the time I'm running on concrete, running on asphalt. So, that my body has no win against that. So my body is going to be unbalanced if I keep doing that. So that's why I'm always going to the chiropractor to get an adjustment and for him to pull my legs back into alignment. So that's something that you might want to practice, if you can, to definitely go to the chiropractor for preventive measures. It doesn't always have to be after the injury is there, because I already know that I am breaking down my body, doing all this exercise. I'm tearing muscle fibers and all that. So the way to counter react that is that I stay at the chiropractor once a month, getting adjustments and things like that. So some of the things that you can do to correct the imbalances within your scope, if the imbalance is not too bad, or if you've already had an injury, you've already had your surgery, you've already had your PT, and now you're on your own, you definitely want to continue that. And don't ever, ladies, don't ever negate PT and think you don't need it. Definitely go to it, get it done. It might be painful, it might be inconvenient, but your body will thank you. Your body needs that to definitely put it back in a homeostasis and try to balance it out. So exercises, that you can do to help with imbalances, like I always give you, ladies, balance exercises like standing on one leg, and you'll feel it quivering, you'll feel it shaking, and then we'll do it a certain amount of time on the other leg. I also make sure that you guys work concentric and eccentric exercises. When you pull, concentric and eccentric, when you pull it down, push it down. We do push, we do pull. So you want to work the opposites. If we're working the biceps, we're going to be working the triceps. If we're working the hamstrings, we're going to be working the quadriceps. So you want to work the opposing muscles. Don't just concentrate on one area of the body while negating the opposite muscle that helps make that muscle work. So you definitely want to do that, or get a program that you can do to work both of those opposing muscles is what you want to do. So you always want to check your form when you're exercising, and you want to exercise with resistance because that helps. And of course, just so happened we talked about resistance training earlier in the week, talking about things like walking, things like riding bikes, things like swimming, things like that can help you to make those muscles stronger, because that does help with that muscle imbalance. And also, if you do have actual muscle imbalance where it is one muscle or one side of the body is weaker than the other side of the body, what I've taught ladies to do, like when we're in the gym, and they tell me, Coach T, this is my weak hand or this is my weak side, what I'll do is I'll have the opposing side just holding the weight or whatever, and I'll get in a few extra reps on that weaker side. So we might be doing 15 overhead push, 15 overhead press. I'll have them to just hold it, and I'll have this probably do 20. We'll do the extra 5 over here. So we'll do both of them together to start off with the balance. Then after we've reached our max of 15 reps, we're going to rest that strong side, we're going to rest. And that weak side, we're going to keep going, and we're going to add in 5 additional. So that's another way if you have muscle weakness, if you're not as strong on one side or the other. Same thing with your leg. Whatever leg exercise you're doing, you want to do those extra ones on that leg. So it just depends on where the muscle imbalance is. If it's something that you can work on yourself, if it's minimal, if you know what it is, because you can't work on something and you don't know exactly what it is. So those are some cues that you can use to help you if you feel that you have muscle imbalances going on in your body. All right. So so that's what I want to add to that one. So it also says one way to avoid exercise-induced muscle imbalances is to focus on function of the whole body. We already do that when we do exercise classes. We don't just concentrate on one thing. You want to avoid trying to build huge muscles in one area. Well, if I was talking to men, well, some women do. They really get into the weightlifting to another level. And you definitely want to make sure that you're working both sides of your body and opposing muscles. So that is our 3 questions that we had for tonight. How to correct muscle imbalances. Does sugar content increase in mushrooms when you cook them by baking or stir frying? And how much sleep do I really need? All right, ladies. So that answers our 3 questions for tonight. We have 3 more for next Thursday. If you have any, send your questions in. If not, I'm sure somebody will send them in by the time I send out the email or the reminder or during the week. I hope you enjoyed this session. So that was my 3 questions to answer for In the Hot Seat. And I hope you ladies have a wonderful day, and be careful out there in all this heat. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.